This video contains media server footage and all performance might be subject to change. Today we're diving deep into Yixuan.
Yes.
Who is the new Ether S rank under the Auric branch and has not one but two ultimates. So if you love high burst damage and rich combos, she might just be your next favorite DPS. But how does it all work? What's her best teams? What's her best disk drives? What substats should you look out for? And why is Sheer Force so broken? But also combos are you know what? Nobody's gonna watch this, it's too long. Just do me, I deserve it. Bringing the new Rupture speciality that specializes in the new stat called Sheer Force. Let's first get you caught up on the basics of what Sheer Force is and what it actually does. Yixuan's attacks use the new Sheer Force stat with a portion of their attack converted into Sheer Force. However, Yixuan gains additional Sheer Force based on her maximum HP, which is currently something only unique to her. But it's very important to note that Sheer Force doesn't benefit from pen ratio, pen stats, at all, and can't be increased by defense reductions and pierce attacks on the enemies as well. What? Additionally, any sheer damage boost is calculated as a new independent multiplier, so pen is completely ineffective and supports like Rina, for example, won't have much to offer to Yixuan, but we'll get into that later. So although Yixuan doesn't benefit from pen ratio or pen stats, it's worth noting that resistance still exists, and you can increase damage by reducing enemies' ether resistance since her attribute is Auric Ink, being a new branch derived from the rare ether attribute. Now, you might have noticed that Yixuan's corruption anomaly proc / burst from the ether buildup is gold instead of purple. And that's simply because of the unique ether branch Yixuan uses called Auric Ink, similar to Miyabi's attribute called Frost that is derived from ice. Now this might confuse new players, but although Auric Ink is considered as a part of the ether element, Auric Ink uses different multipliers than ether and will trigger disorders with regular ether buildup as well. So to put it simple, if you're familiar with Miyabi, it works in the exact same way. So Frost is identical to ice when it comes to buffs and gear boosts and etc, but it has its own multiplier anomaly buildup and will trigger disorders with its mother element ice. So Auric Ink, being the ether attribute anomaly, is not considered sheer damage and does not ignore defense. But it doesn't matter that much because she's not an anomaly agent, but it's still worth noting. So just how important is Sheer Force going to be in 2.0? Well, from going around the early access, one thing I can tell you guys right now is that there's going to be a lot of enemies in 2.0 that are going to be weak versus Sheer Force because they've added a new mechanic called the Miasma State, which greatly increases the enemy's defense, and Sheer Force is the only stat that has a natural advantage over that. So will Yixuan be mandatory to clear content? Absolutely not. But she will save you a lot of time and is clearly built as the strongest DPS for 2.0 due to her speciality and added HP percentage conversion into Sheer Force that feeds into her sheer damage, with Sheer Force ignoring the enemy's defense entirely, and the Miasma State. So that's Sheer Force out of the way. Now we need to take a look at Yixuan's unique functions,
yes,
Adrenaline, and Technique Points. So what's Adrenaline? Adrenaline is the new energy bar that's unique to all Rupture agents with 2 recovery per second, or at least if we go with what's in the early access.
Woo!
And Yixuan consumes Adrenaline / energy to unleash X special attacks, but also build up Technique Points that we'll look into just in a moment. But let's have a closer look at Adrenaline first. Now, they called it Adrenaline because of its unique feature being its rapid accumulation that offers more energy recovery options compared to regular energy. And when you are playing her, you will feel it, because Yixuan gains full adrenaline upon entering combat, can recover adrenaline after triggering a perfect dodge, when allies use their ultimate, when performing perfect block with X special attack called Ink Manifestation that we will get into just in a moment, or after using basic attack Auric Array. Yeah, that's a lot of energy. On top of that, when consuming adrenaline, Yixuan will simultaneously accumulate Technique Points, which you need for one of her ultimates, Endless Talisman Suppression. So look at Adrenaline as an alt to regular energy and Technique Points as an alt to decibels. However, some recovery options are clearly unique to her, but I think that the recovery methods are likely going to vary between Rupture agents. So Adrenaline is unique to the Rupture speciality, but Technique Points is unique to Yixuan. And when Yixuan accumulates maximum Technique Points, she can unleash the ultimate Endless Talisman Suppression. But since the ultimate button is shared between her Technique Point ultimate and her regular Decibel ultimate, you're probably wondering what will get launched first when you use your alt keybind. Well, I tested this thoroughly and I can confirm that when Yixuan has sufficient technique points and decibels, her technique point ultimate, Endless Talisman Suppression, will be prioritized over her decibel ultimate. And there's a good reason for that we're going to get into. And what's more is that Yixuan's ultimates have a special mechanic, and what it does basically is redistribute all the squad's HP evenly among all the members. So we can look at this like a sort of heal. So to put it simple, if one of your agents is running low on HP and your other two are above, Yixuan will redistribute the HP between all members of the team evenly. So maybe we could say that she's trying to keep things in balance and possibly, you know, a wink to the whole yin-yang symbolizing constant interaction and transformation. I don't know. Either way, it's a real cool feature that mixed with Pan Yinhu's heals or even Astro Yao can give you some gameplay options. But there's more, because after using any of Yixuan's ultimate, she immediately enters the meditation state, during which Yixuan's crit damage is increased by 40% for 15 seconds. But it's important to note that the countdown on this buff will commence immediately as you launch the ultimate animation. And when she comes out of the ult animation, Yixuan will have about 11 seconds to benefit from the meditation state, which is actually huge if you consider that she can activate this with both her ultimates. So if you do this in a sequence and plan it well, you can benefit from this buff for a total of about 22 seconds. And that's exactly how you're supposed to play her, and what we'll look at just in a bit. So next up, we need to talk about Auric Ink Points and Auric Array. So to keep this simple, like after unleashing the ultimate Endless Talisman Suppression, which is your ultimate that uses your technique points, Yixuan gains 1 Auric Ink Point, and let's just call it Auric Points from now because, yeah, Auric Ink Point's a mouthful. So she can then consume the Auric Point to unleash Auric Array once. So when unleashing Auric Array, Yixuan continuously restores adrenaline, and during the skill, Yixuan becomes invulnerable and enters something called Vital View. Now the Auric Array only includes the first half, which is the Tai Chi formation and the shadow merging into the ground. Now the subsequent wing spreading move is part of her basic attack and isn't part of Auric Array, but can be followed up with. And you remember earlier that I said there is a good reason that they prioritize the technique point ultimate, Endless Talisman Suppression, over her decibel ultimate. And the reason is right here. It's because in between both ultimates, you have a burst window with Auric Array that you must take advantage of. And that opens options as reapplying buffs or combos depending on what team you include her in. So technique points ultimate, Endless Talisman, you'll gain an Auric point to consume by holding the dodge button. That's going to launch Auric Array, and as soon as the animation begins, you can either quick assist or swap cancel an agent on the field, and Yixuan will continue to perform Auric Array, and you'll have the options with your other agents to build days, add damage, reapply buffs, and then bring her back and continue the combos. Not much point telling you what to do after this point, because it's going to vary a lot depending on your team's setting. Next we have X Special Attack, Ink Manifestation, and Cloud Shaper. So Ink Manifestation is a special attack with block frames that we could compare to bends. So basically when Yixuan has enough adrenaline, being her energy, and gets hit by an enemy attack while unleashing her X Special Attack, she'll gain immunity to that damage and also recover some of the adrenaline/energy that she consumed. And after using the skill, Yixuan can unleash her extension of the X Special Attack, being Celestial Cloud Blitz Break. After triggering Celestial Cloud Blitz Break in this manner, and if Yixuan has enough adrenaline, she can unleash a third X Special Attack to activate Qingming Eruption Break. So to recap, this X Special Attack combo combines adrenaline recovery, block, movement, and burst damage with low energy cost, well, low adrenaline cost, and is one of Yixuan's main go-to combos on damage sources. Now Cloud Shaper can be activated by holding the basic attack with sufficient adrenaline/energy, and Yixuan will enter a sustained charging state, channeling energy to attack. Much like Nicole's energy field basically, this skill draws enemies in during its channeling. It's basically one of Yixuan's go-to move for consuming adrenaline/energy to quickly build up technique points. And here's a tip: if there's time left while the enemy is in the dazed state, or if you haven't charged up both ultimates yet, I highly recommend for you to prioritize using Cloud Shaper over Ashen Ink, because the damage is continuous and you gain the 30% damage increase against stunned agents. Next, we need to go over her core passive and additional ability. Her core passive, Grandmaster Mysticism, boosts the damage of Auric Array, Qingming Eruption, X Special Attack, Assist Follow-Up, Chained Attacks, and ultimate damage by 60%. And for her additional ability, Auric Ink Undercurrent, with the current condition being a stun, support or defense agent to activate, which is that when any member uses an ultimate, Yixuan continuously recovers 2 adrenaline over 10 seconds. And remember, adrenaline is basically energy. If Yixuan is switched out by perfect assist, she automatically follows up with a lightning strike dealing equal to 225% of her sheer force and restoring an additional 5 adrenaline, which again, adrenaline, just think of it as energy. Her additional ability also boosts her damage against stun enemies by 30%, and as we touched on earlier, after launching either of her ultimates, she will enter the meditation state and buff herself for 40% crit damage for 15 seconds. And again, this state will be granted regardless of which ultimate she is using. So once you've launched the ultimate with the technique points, you'll take advantage of the burst window and then follow up with her decibel ultimate to reset the meditation state cooldown and carry on dealing damage with one of her best buffs. So if we look at it, at the whole picture here, Yixuan's additional ability not only increases adrenaline recovery, but also boosts crit damage and increasing damage against stun enemies. So setting the stage for Yixuan in the right sequence is going to be one of the most important things to master around her kit and teammates. Basic combo. So I'm only going to show you one auto stun combo because overwhelming you with too many is pointless. You'll naturally pick up more as you're comfortable with the gameplay, and it's also going to depend on what teams you have at your disposal. So with Auric and Yinhu, you want to quick assist Yixuan in, use Cloud Shaper to build technique points if you're close to your ult. Otherwise, just hold dodge to launch Ink Veil, and as soon as the animation begins, quick assist Yinhu in, basic attacks with Yinhu if you need some energy, then use his X special to buff Yixuan, quick assist Yixuan back in, Yinhu will apply depleted chi that we'll cover in a bit, and launch her technique points or decibel ult, and if you launched her technique points 1, you want to follow up with Auric Array immediately, and from there you've got so many options. You can even quick assist back out and, you know, reloop the process as we did for Ink Veil for Auric Array, but all of that is going to depend on the setting and your teammates. Team builds. Now, as I said at the beginning, due to the nature of Rupture Agent stat sheer force, Yixuan should avoid teaming up with agents that provide defense reduction. Additionally, since attack is only partially converted to sheer force, attack boosting effects have slightly diminishing returns on Yixuan, but they're still beneficial. So for Yixuan's teammates, you should prioritize those who can provide a damage increase, debuffs, and crit or crit damage, followed by agents that can increase attack. And just to reiterate, like, while attack buffs have diminishing returns on Yixuan, they're still beneficial, but right now, the best team composition that you can give her, which I think you've already guessed, Yixuan, Yinhu, and Auric. Auric can provide a significant attack but damage boost as well, and crit damage increase. So although the attack bonus will be somewhat reduced for Yixuan, what we know right now is that Yinhu can provide sheer force boost and damage increase, which perfectly complements Yixuan's damage composition. So to break Yinhu's core buff, when Yinhu triggers quick assist by hitting an enemy with his X special attack, agents entering through quick assist or chain attack will gain the Meridian Flow effect, which increases their sheer force. And the sheer force amount is determined by Yinhu's attack with a certain cap at Mindscapes 0. And to get the most out of this buff, you'll need to get Yinhu's attack to 3000. But that's not it. Yinhu can also inflict something called depleted chi on enemies. So when Yinhu's special attack hits an enemy, it inflicts depleted chi, and what this does is that increases damage taken from all units and triggering a reverse switch. And after switching, Yinhu will continue to remain on the field to automatically perform his special attack, Touch of Death, and inflicting depleted chi on enemies that are hit. Now, while depleted chi cannot stack, landing multiple hits with Touch of Death can extend depleted chi's duration. And it's important to note that this debuff is categorized as an increased damage taken and not vulnerability. And I think that considering that he is an A rank, and you will be able to build his Mindscapes to M6 if you pull smartly, as in keeping your master tapes for the end of 2.0, so that if you can't max it to M6, that at least when he's moving to the stable banner, you'll be able to try your luck over there as well. When we get Jufufu, the best team is likely going to be Yixuan, Jufufu, and Auric, but we'll only know officially once we get closer. For my second team recommendation, Yixuan, Yinhu, and Trigger. And that's because since Yixuan requires extended field time as a DPS, Trigger is a good choice as a teammate since she can stay in the background for long periods of time and apply vulnerability. However, the issue is that when Trigger teams up with Yixuan, Trigger's additional ability can't be activated. And since Trigger's already a slow stun speed agent, like, it can be a problem, but she's still the next best alternative when Astro Yell isn't in your roster. Now, if Astro Yell isn't available, you can always replace her with Caesar instead. And as a free-to-play option, you can run Lucy instead of Astro Yell or Caesar. But as a priority, you would want to use Astro Yell over Caesar and Caesar over Lucy. These are commonly used attack support agents, and they can provide Yixuan with a significant boost since a portion of attack is converted into sheer force, so they can be acceptable pairing choices. Now let's talk about her W engine and drive discs. Signature first. Its main stat is HP, which only she's going to be interested in for now, and very interested. But it also increases the equipper's crit rate, and when the equipper uses an X special attack, they gain a Qingming companion effect, which increases ether damage and ether shear damage from ultimate and X special attacks that stack up to 2 times. And since Yixuan's core skill doesn't boost crit rate, and her overall output is burst focused, her crit rate stats need to be as high as possible. And her signature weapon primarily helps alleviate the crit requirement pressure. Now, the amplification effect provides Yixuan with a new independent multiplier, and due to the nature of sheer damage, it acts as a total damage boost. So it's incredibly powerful. So the Radio Wave Journey is the Battle Pass W engine. Excuse me. And yeah, it's an acceptable alternative. You know, it's got an advanced stat of HP percentage, which is what she wants. You can either do it through chain attacks or her ultimate. And I think chain attacks, it would probably tell us that you would probably have to play this W engine around stun windows more than anything else. And what that does is it gives you 3 stacks of 80 sheer force, which is huge. And they all last 12 seconds, and the stacks are calculated separately. Unfortunately, it doesn't have crit rate, so that means you're going to have to work harder on your drive discs. But that's just how it is if you're not putting for a signature most of the time. Now for the free-to-play weapon, the Puzzle Sphere. Yeah, there's not much to say about this one, unfortunately. It has an advanced stat of attack percentage, and as we know, with a portion of their attack converted into sheer force. Ah, damn! So yep. And for the effect, crit damage when you launch an X special, that's not a bad trade. And yeah, the other one is that you have to get the enemy under 50% of their max HP, which will give you an X special attack damage increase. Not a general damage increase, just an X special attack damage increase, which is not bad, but the Battle Pass W engine is definitely better. So if you can swing a few bucks, then that would probably be the way to go, unless you can get lucky with her signature. You know, the signature just has such clear advantages to feed her kit that I don't think it's one you'd want to skip, but if you have to, the Radio Wave Journey is there. And for free-to-play players, the Puzzle Sphere won't give you much, but it will keep you going until you have either enough to get her W engine or wait for a rerun. But frankly, by the time we do have a Yixuan rerun, we're probably going to get some other alternative Rupture engines, so yeah. We'll see. Okay, now for my favorite part, drive discs. So for the full piece, you're going to want to go with the new set Yonkai Tails. Its bonuses and effects are just perfect for a kit, but you do have the option of running a full piece Woodpecker Electro instead. Although inferior, it will still bring some value to Yixuan. But all in all, you're going to want to stick with the 4-piece Yonkai Tails. And remember to keep your slots 1 to 3 standards very high. And for more on that, just check out my drive disc guide. For the 2-piece, I think a few people are going to say that these are an option, but don't bother. Just go either 2-piece Woodpecker Electro or 2-piece Branch and Blade Song or 2-piece Chaotic Metal. I would highly recommend you focus on either Woodpecker if your substats are lacking on crit, or Branch and Blade Song if your substats are lacking on crit damage. Simple as that. And your 2-piece drive disc choice is also going to depend on what team you put her in. And just as an example, although it's a bad example, if you were to put her with Nicole, whose M6 provides crit rate and she also provides ether damage, you're probably not going to need to go with the Chaotic Metal or the Woodpecker Electro, so you would want to go for the Branch and Blade Song instead. However, one thing that's for sure is the main stats from 4 to 6. Slot 4, you're going to want crit rate or crit damage. Slot 5, you're going to want ether damage or HP. And slot 6, you're going to want HP percentage no matter what, because HP percentage feeds into her kit. But attack percentage feeds into it as well, but not as well as HP percentage. So you need HP percentage. Mais statique, qu'allons-nous faire de ces substats? I got you, homie. Very straightforward. She has 3 STS substats, and they are crit rate, crit damage, and HP percentage. Now, HP percentage is incredibly valuable, like I keep saying, because 1 HP point converts into 0.1 sheer force, and there's no cap. so directly and infinitely feeding into her damage output. And while substats like attack percentage and flat attack can be converted into sheer force, it's not as beneficial as the HP substats. And as I said multiple times before, skip pen altogether. And yeah, I don't want to be too harsh with attack percentage on her because it's still a good alternative to HP percentage. So if you are getting a disc with crit rate, crit damage, and attack percentage and no HP percentage, it's still worth probing and seeing if it has value. And how to judge that is that you would want most of the substat rolls to go on crit rate or crit damage. If none of them go on that and you just got attack percentage, you're not going to want to put that disc on her, but you can just keep it for a different agent instead. So for our last part, Mindscapes. So for her M1, upon entering combat, Yixuan increases her crit rate and instantly restores maximum technique points. And when any squad member hits an enemy, this triggers an additional lightning strike attack that deals damage based on Yixuan's sheer force and restores adrenaline. So there's definitely a lot of value with her M1 if it stays as is, because maxing out technique points is like getting a free ultimate. And so it just speeds up the overall DPS rotation. You know, Lightning Strike not only adds a bit of extra damage, but also improves adrenaline recovery. So yeah, highly recommended. But I think what's most interesting is her M2. And what the M2 does is when you use an ultimate or X special attack, it ignores a certain amount of the enemy's ether damage resistance. And when activating her Decibel ultimate, Qingming Sky Shade, the enemy's stun duration is extended. And when using her Technique Points ultimate, Endless Talisman Suppression, you'll gain 1 stack of Condensed Ink effect. And that's going to open up much more for you. And the list just goes on and on. And I think the biggest take from here is, from what I understand, is that after activating her ultimate, Yixuan will get an extra chance to unleash an X special attack. And I think what that means is that this skill can be chained after consecutive special attacks or Cloud Shaper. So the way to look at it is that this Mindscape improves Yixuan's output rhythm. It grants Yixuan's a rare resistance reduction self buff and increases normal damage output potential. And I think this is definitely one of her strongest game-changing Mindscapes. However, the additional ultimate release is considered an X special attack and doesn't benefit from the ultimate related bonuses such as Meditation State, because as we see here, it says we can additionally activate an X special attack, Endless Talisman Suppression Break, which is basically her ultimate but in the form of a special attack. Now I know this is already confusing, but when you actually play her and see it for yourself, then it makes sense. But obviously you would only see it once you got the M2, so there's that. Anyway, her M2 is absolutely busted, and yeah, extends all her combos and synergies with her kit. Her M4 is much more straightforward. You basically gain Tranquility when using your ultimate, and you can get up to 2 stacks, and for each stack, it increases the damage dealt by the next X special attack, Cloud Shaper, and Ashen Ink. And Cloud Shaper is perfect for dealing continuous damage after stunning an enemy, and this Mindscapes further increases this damage ceiling. And like I said to you earlier, if you don't have like any of your other tools available during a stun window, Cloud Shaper is your go-to. It is really, really good, and obviously it burns through your energy, but in exchange for great damage. So M4 is great for consuming adrenaline quickly while maintaining output after stunning an enemy. So yeah, it's good. It's a good Mindscape. It's not as good as M2, but it's still got great value. And her M6, what do we have here? So this thing is also quite busted. So after activating ultimate Qingming Sky Shade, you gain an enhancement effect up to 1 stack, and under this effect, Yixuan can unleash ultimate's Endless Talisman Suppression, which is her Technique Points ultimate. And you actually just ignore it. You ignore the Technique Points cost, so you can just do it for free. Yeah, it's quite strong. So yeah, anyway, after activation, from what I see here, this effect ends and can be gained again after a certain amount of time. And additionally to that, while she's in the meditation state, which she gains after launching one of her ultimates, or both, Yixuan will also gain extra sheer damage. Now, whether that's going to stay 20% or get nerfed, I don't know. We'll see. Now, maybe I've misunderstood something, but for me, what this means, if you have her M2 and her M6, the synergy between those two Mindscapes is actually just unreal, because if it is what I think it is, Yixuan can unleash almost 4 ultimates in a single burst rotation. And if that's the case, I mean, might as well call her a Void Hunter right now. In case you're interested, my personal and final thoughts on Yixuan. So I thought it'd be good if I put my webcam on for this bit so you guys can see my expressions and my body language. This is how I really feel about this whole Yixuan situation. For me, it's clear that Yixuan is coming in as a Rupture agent to show us just how new and unique this class is, and also to set the stage for future limited banners around the speciality. Now, the thing is, she's going to be the best limited S-rank Rupture agent that won't be dethroned for a while, much like Miyabi, and be so valuable due to the new Miasma State on enemies, you know, that increases the defense, which she's just going to naturally ignore with sheer force. And what worries me with that is that people that are going to be joining Season 2 in 2.0, they're going to want to get Yixuan because she's just going to be the best thing available at that time. But her W engine options are so scarce, you can either get her signature or the Battle Pass W engine, and neither of those options are free-to-play friendly, unless you get very lucky on her banner and you're able to pull for her signature as well. Now, as you've seen, her gameplay is above average because of the many ways to optimize her combos and output, and that's going to vary a lot depending on what team you put her in, what circumstances she is, and where she is at with her kit on the field. You'll get used to it, and the problem isn't there. The problem is how to optimize her with her teammates, because her favorite teammates are going to be expensive. Even more expensive than Hugo, who wants Lighter very badly. Yixuan is going to want Astra Yao in 2.0, and she's also going to then want Jufufu in the second half. So this puts free-to-play players in a situation where they have to make a decision, either to pull Yixuan, skip her Mindscapes, bearing in mind that her M2 is absolutely busted, or going for the teammates that are most optimal for her, being Astra Yao and Jufufu. Maybe just Jufufu. We've just had that with Hugo, where we need Lighter to get the most out of Hugo. And now we're getting a new speciality that needs their W engine, or the Battle Pass W engine, but ideally the signature, but also needs Astra Yao, which is on the rerun banner, and Jufufu, which is on the second split. And you know what this reminds me of? A quote from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. And that's exactly how I feel with Yixuan because of the collateral around getting her. You know? Hugo, we need Lighter. Yixuan, we're going to want Astra Yao and Jufufu for the foreseeable future. So, and that's excluding the W engine situation. So the question is, should you pull for Yixuan? If you're like me, and you want Orpheus really badly, you want the Angels of Delusions, all of them, really badly, I don't think it's a good idea. And again, this is why I keep coming back to this whole comparison with Miyabi, because it is very similar. If you don't get Miyabi's W engine, you have many alternatives. They're not going to be as good as her signature, but there are many alternatives. But with Yixuan, her W engine is great. But there isn't many alternatives. The only real alternative that's going to be a good bang for your buck would be the Battle Pass one. The free-to-play one, the Puzzle Sphere, I don't even know why that thing exists. We'll probably find out later with another Rupture agent that's going to want it, maybe, as a good alternative. But Yixuan? Now, with all that being said, what does this all mean for you? Well, if you have an unconditional love for Yixuan, where you love her lore, you love her character, you like her gameplay, just go for it. So I've got to head out right after this, but I am boiling hot, so I'm dropping the code. What I was going to say now, for people who want to pull Yixuan to make her into just like a killing machine, like Miyabi, you're going to want the right setting for her to get her optimized. And that kind of mimics what the situation we just had for Hugo, where we need Lighter. So you just need to bear these things in mind, that if you are going to pull for her to get, and you want to get the most out of her, you have to make peace with the idea that you may lose all your 50-50s on Yixuan, Astra Yao, and Jufufu, and also maybe lose all your 75-25s if you're planning to get all the W engines. But again, I don't recommend you get Astra Yaos. You're just good to go with the Bashful Demon. But yeah, these are just things you need to bear in mind if you want to get her into her perfect setting. But if you're getting her because you think she's waifu material, oh, she really is, then just go for it. Don't think twice. Just go for it. Just go for it. Anyway, as usual, drop me a comment on what you want to see next. Don't forget to like and subscribe for better luck on your drive disc rolls. This was Static. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.